Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NDEAM 2022. My name is Carl Braun, and I am the Business Services Manager for Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area. We support about 15,000 businesses in the 9 counties that surround Austin's Travis County. For today, chat is going to be disabled for this seminar. You can put your questions that you may have in the Q&A section, and then we'll address those as we go along. You know, over the last 4 years, we've held, I can't believe this is our 15th NDEAM seminar with hundreds of attendees celebrating National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And today we're very fortunate to have Michelle Szumski from Texas Workforce Commission on board to discuss accommodations and assistive technologies. Michelle is the program specialist for assistive and rehabilitation technology for Texas Workforce Commission. She provided program support, planning of services, and education for vocational rehabilitation counselors all across the state to business partners and customers in the area of assistive technologies, vehicle modifications, home and office modifications all across the great state of Texas. Michelle is a master's of education from the University of Texas at Austin. She's a licensed professional counselor and certified rehabilitation counselor. Michelle, I am going to turn the floor over to you. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. Let's see if I can share my screen here. All right, is everybody seeing the Texas Workforce Solution?
We are not seeing your screen yet. There we go. And there we are.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. Just a little bit about me. I had a whole career as a human resource professional until about 2007, when I became one of the folks that we consider differently abled. I am now a wheelchair user. I was first diagnosed as having limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. It has been determined I now have what's called a very rare disease called Pompe's disease, which means I am missing the enzyme that the muscles need to just continue to function. So it builds up. A big surprise for my family. So I had a whole life as an able-bodied person, and then this new life as a person that needs a wheelchair. I drive a converted vehicle, and I found myself having to change careers. And I realized firsthand how difficult it was to get a job, and some of the, I guess, what employers would worry about when we talk about accommodations. Especially for me, I didn't know what I needed. I mean, I'd never been put in that position. So I'm very passionate about this subject because at that time I was a single mom of 2 girls, and you know, I needed to work to take care of my family. So I'm kind of approaching today from an employer's viewpoint, and to talk about what accommodations are, what type of assistive technology can be beneficial, and kind of demystify the whole process, right? One person's abilities or needs are never the same as another person's. And so it's about having those conversations and having the conversations in a way that's inclusive. See if I can advance the slides. There we go. So assistive technology. I like to say I handle all the cool toys, right? The Americans with Disabilities Act amendment regulates from an Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. So what I find is when we talk about accommodations, when we talk about assistive technology, employees worry about the cost. Oh no, what's this going to cost me? We don't have this in the budget. You know, we don't have, what are they going to need? And then how do we implement it? So if you go to Job and Accommodation Network, and that's the JAN network. They did a study in 2004. 59% of accommodations cost absolutely nothing to the employer, while the rest of them may cost less than $500. So we're looking at 5% that costs more than $500. What does it get you? Well, you get to retain valuable employees. You improve productivity, you boost morale, you reduce workers' comp and training costs, and you improve the company's diversity. And a personal note, when you hire someone that needs accommodations, you get someone that's had to problem solve, right? Every aspect of their lives. So you are getting, number one, a person who's creative, a person who really wants to work, right? Because it doesn't feel necessarily good to say, I need something different. So you're getting a dedicated employee, you're getting somebody who wants to work, and somebody that is used to, you know, the phrase is think outside the box, right? How can I get this done? There are several different types of technology. There's the no-tech. This is an accommodation. This costs very little or no money. It's just time, support, and creativity. Then there's low-tech. This is accommodation that is technologically simple or unsophisticated and is readily available in most offices. An example of this would be using voice to text that Microsoft has as part of its system. So it's not any fancy software. It's already on your computers. It's just a matter of knowing how to set that up. Or it could be something simple as making the font larger and changing the settings. And then there's the high-tech solution. This is accommodation that uses advanced or sophisticated devices. An example would be a head device, and that's someone that uses either a dot on their glasses, so where they look into the computer, then the cursor follows them, or maybe they use switches, and that is just a button that tabs between different programs that accesses the computer in a different way. And please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. I'd love to give more examples of each of these no-tech, low-tech, and high-tech solutions. So let's look at some either no-tech or low-tech. So on your left, there's a picture of an adjustable desk. There are a lot of employees that are using these adjustable desks. And in this case, this is a standing desk so that they're not sitting. Who could this help? Well, this could help somebody with arthritis. So they're not in one position all day long. A lot of folks without a disability are using these standing desks because what we find is a person standing is able to move around, is healthier. So you'll see a lot of these standing desks for a person that doesn't have a disability. On the right, you see a monitor stand. You'll notice that this monitor stand is extended, right? So a person in a wheelchair, it brings the monitor to them instead of it being on the desk where they can't reach. This, once again, is a no-tech. Somebody can have this on their desk without a disability. Perhaps maybe they have dual monitors. This would be an example of something that could be readily available that even a person without a disability could use. I mentioned that the Microsoft has part of the program built in that allows you to do voice to text. but there also is dedicated software that does this also. One of the most popular ones is Dragon Naturally Speaking. On the right is a picture of what that box looks like that it comes in. What makes this work best is to have a microphone. And on the left, you can see a headset that puts the microphone right in front of the user's mouth. What this does is a person that is not able to speak very loud is able to talk directly into that microphone without disturbing any of the coworkers, and it picks up their voice. What makes this more of a higher tech solution is to use this, you have to create what's called a voice file. And that voice file is just for your voice. So if somebody else sat down at your computer and wanted to use Dragon Naturally Speaking, it would not work as well, because this software absolutely is designed for the person whose voice file is already on the computer. It basically learns your voice and the way you say certain words. This is a very popular solution. Then we have video magnifiers. We see this being used for folks that have a vision impairment, or in my case, if you're over 40, some of these are something that would be helpful anyway. On your right is a handheld. It is called a Ruby. It can take pictures so that you can look at it later. You can then zoom in on that picture, just like you do your handheld camera on your iPhone. On the left, this is a desktop device. It is portable, even though it looks kind of large right now. And it puts something in the tray and it reads that document, puts it up on the screen. It also can read it to you by using OCR. This is a little more sophisticated device. Any questions about the video magnifiers? There are all kinds of video magnifiers.
Yesterday, Michelle, we were at the office in San Marcos, our Workforce Solutions office in San Marcos, and myself and one of my staff walked into the resource area, and we saw this device, and what it looked like was a microfiche reader, right? Remember those back in the day when we actually had back in the days? And I didn't realize until I was reviewing your presentation this morning that it was actually a video magnifier.
Yeah.
And so we have those in our offices for people who are challenged with eyesight, and which I am. So
sure. Yeah, I went to bed 39. It was my birthday, and I woke up and I couldn't see. It happened very abruptly for me. But if you can imagine, if you can't see your computer, you're at a big disadvantage than other people. And a lot of people, I know I did, when I needed glasses and I hadn't accepted the fact that I couldn't see as well. You try to fake it. But if this is available, you don't have to, right? Because people are embarrassed to talk. Some people, and I was embarrassed to say, what I couldn't do. So I would, squint, or I would try, or I would find ways to do it differently. Where if this is available, all you have to do, this can, as you see at the tray at the bottom, you can do, everyone is different, but this one, you can do 80 pages at a time. So we can store it and you can put it on a USB drive. It's quite a sophisticated device.
it's amazing.
About this a little more. Did you say so?
I just said it's amazing. One of your business services folks was doing a presentation for us. I think it was about 4 years ago, and he got up and he was having trouble with his computer. And I walked up there and I said to him, "Well, your computer isn't on." He says, "No, it's on. I'm blind." And he says, "I listen to my computer. I don't read it." And I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. That's Jonathan, right? And so
Jonathan,
you say that, you try and fake it till you make it. Well, Jonathan, I don't think anyone in the room had any idea that he could not see them. And he was using assistive technologies on the computer so that he could listen to what the page said in his ear. That's pretty fascinating stuff.
it's very fascinating because they get so, folks who use speech like that, they listen to it so much faster, right? Because they're used to hearing that input. So they could do, oftentimes are faster than I am on the computer, right? Jonathan Myers is also, we have technology kits, and I'll talk about those in a little more detail. And he is one of our folks that has that kit. He's the point person. So anytime an employer would like to know what assistive technology may be available and would like to educate their employees, we can bring out the kits and you can put your hands on them and you can test out the equipment. And these kits are very sophisticated, and we have low tech and high tech in those kits. And you just have to check with, say Jonathan, and ask to see that kit, and he will bring it out and do an education. Okay. Here's some example of low tech. Once again, this is devices you may see in an office. This mouse on the far right is actually a mouse that I use. You can see here, why do I use this? Because it takes out the repetitive motion of moving your arm. This is operated by your thumb, so my hand doesn't move across the desk. It's a thumb mice, and your hand lays on top of it in a very natural way that you would put your hand down on your desk. On the left is somebody with vision impairment, or they could have a tremor. And this is a larger piece. It is, you'll notice that it's yellow or black, so it's easier to see. The letters are larger. And what you can't tell by this picture is the actual letter is raised. So by touch, you could tell that that was an A, that was an S, and so forth. Many keyboards are braille, so that by touch, again, you can be able to type just using a keyboard that everybody else uses. These are also wireless. It connects by USB to the computer or a laptop, so you don't have the wires on the desk. And if you look around any desk in your offices, you're going to see these type of devices for folks that don't have a disability. They're just better for you, especially with us. Everything we do is on the computer, right? So carpal tunnel, which affects your arms and your hands, and it's fatiguing. It's quite prevalent, and this helps with that. These devices are for folks with a hearing impairment, or once again, I mentioned some folks are unable due to their breath and their lung capacity, unable to talk very loud. This is a pocket talker. You can take this device on the right, and you can put it up there on a podium, say at the speaker, and you can hear it in your ear what they're saying. The device on the left is much the same. It kind of goes both ways. So you can use your speech and make it louder. You can also put the device anywhere in the room, or let's say you are on a large conference call, and sometimes with everybody speaking, it's difficult to understand who's speaking or maybe what they're saying. So this amplifies that sound. This is different than a hearing aid because it truly is amplifying the sound, not necessarily specific to their hearing beat. This would be a low tech solution for sure. Here's a diagram showing the video relay service. So a person calls a special phone number, and then a person will use ASL to sign to the person that picks up the phone what the speaker on the other end is saying. Much like we have the ASL interpreter today interpreting what I am saying, this is somebody that's using their telephone, right? So a person now can still have a reception desk, right? Where people come in or receiving phone calls or directing those calls. This is often a no-cost solution. It really just makes sure that you have the correct equipment, and oftentimes that equipment is free. Swanson is a good company to find out what your options are, right? So this is all of the fancy slides that I have today. So please, if you have any questions, I would love for you to ask. But I want to tell you the situation that happened to me. I am a person who uses a wheelchair. So typical desks are really too low for the wheelchair to go underneath. This was my first job as a counselor. It was in New Braunfels, and I was so excited, right? Keep in mind, I'm a person who typically in the workforce up until 2007 didn't need any accommodations. So I get to my job, so excited to get started, and I can barely reach the computer. I'm leaning over. You can't work a full day in that type of position, right? And they're the modular desks you may have seen. They can be adjustable. So they had some, I think they're at that time it was contractors that handle redesigning those desks. And so they came in, it was two gentlemen, and they would say, well, no problem. We can make it taller. This will be easy. And so, they take it apart. They raise it up, but there was one problem. The leg on the part that of the desk that was kind of went out into the center of the room, the leg of the desk was too short. So the desk was raised, but one end was still about a foot lower. So as you can imagine, every pin you had would go right off the desk. And it was definitely at a slope. So we were looking at that, and I was, didn't know how we were going to fix this, right? I didn't want to be that person that required a whole special desk. I was like, no, it's going to be fine. It'll be fine. And this gentleman, I guess he was about 25 years old. He goes, wait a minute. He goes out to his truck. He gets one of those cinder blocks, that I'm talking about. It's kind of a concrete, when you were in college, you used to put two together and make that fancy bookcase, right? So he takes his cinder block, he throws it on the ground, picks up half of it because it breaks, comes back to the office, puts it under that leg, and it worked perfect. It leveled out the desk, and it didn't cost anybody anything. We didn't have to buy anything but a cinder block out of the back of his truck, right? That he had there. And he's like, no, just use that. It was perfect. That's a great example, really, of just somebody being creative. How can we do this? One of the things that vocational rehabilitation services can do is help come up with those solutions. I get calls all the time. Hey, this is a problem. Do you know of anything? Have you seen anything? Who can I talk to? There is a program called the Texas Technology Access Program. Every state has one. And they let you check out actual equipment to use for 30 days to see if that solution is going to work. So let's say you had an employee and they said, I just can't hear when people talk. You can go online, check out one of the pocket talkers, or perhaps two different ones, and see if that works. See if that, before you spend any money, you can try it before you buy it, right? And that's available to employers. So there's many solutions. You don't have to do the guesswork. Let's say you don't have any idea what accommodations are needed. Well, if you're working with VR, we can hire someone called an ATP. It's your rehab engineer, and they come and do an assessment. They talk to the employee. They visually see what the job is, and they come up with some recommendations. This is what they need. They need, perhaps a different chair, maybe an ergonomic chair. And they give a list, and the VR can help purchase that. They work with the employer. Maybe it's a situation where the employer says, you know what, I can do the desk and the chair, and VR Services says, great, we'll get the computer with the Dragon Naturally Speaking, we'll train them on how to use it, and we work together for that employee to have a meaningful job.
Yeah, that's really great, Michelle. We do have some questions coming in. So Amanda here is asking if there's a specific office furniture company in different regions that can be used to purchase these types of assistive technologies.
It depends on what we're looking for, right? An adjustable desk can be purchased from anyone because that's a readily available type device. Now, if we're looking for a desk that allows a person to sit in what's called a zero gravity chair, basically maybe they have to lay down to type. So the person has to be in a prone position. So that's a specialized chair and a specialized desk that would then invert over the employee. Then we would have to go to a rehab engineer or something where someone can custom make it. So it really just depends. We don't have one place that says, they do accommodating furniture. It really just depends on, what we need.
Okay. I remember years ago, we had an individual that needed a height adjusted desk. And it was going to take some time. This is before they had Veridesk and all these, these ones you could stand up and use, and all that sort of thing, right? The ones that are totally changeable. And our guy went out for $1.52 and got 4 bricks and put them underneath each leg. And it was exactly the perfect height. And it was $1.52 plus tax. And that was that, right? And then after that, the person that needed the workplace accommodation didn't want the new desk. They didn't want the expensive desk because this one fit just fine, worked just fine. So we have another one of our attendees who would like you to repeat who again would help you with the technology. You mentioned too that there's a group that will come out and help you develop or work with the assistive technologies, and then there was another where you can borrow them for 30 days. Can you repeat that information?
Sure, and that is, and I'm going to see if I can pull up the website. Just a second for you. You can see what it is. And it's called Texas Technology Access Program. And they go by TTAP, TTAP. I'm going to pull up their site for us. This is the device loans. And so you just click on the device loans. And it talks about how to borrow a device. And there's an equipment request form. Oh, that was me, sorry. I don't know if y'all heard that beeping, but here's a good example of an accommodation. Because I was misdiagnosed and they found out what it was, what I needed, right? So I had to have infusion therapy, which basically means there's an IV running right now in my arm. I don't know if I can see that. And every other Thursday, I am hooked up to this IV, and for 5 hours, I'm getting my medicine, right? I am working. I'm not missing work. It's just amazing when you talk about accommodations. This is definitely a high-tech solution, but what it does is it requires an employee to be understanding and supportive. So I'm able to keep working. In fact, I'm basically tied to the desk. So let me go back to this loan, but that was that beeping was. So this is available for 35 days. Let's see if they have a list. You have to register, view items for loan. And you can see here, they just have tons. There's tons of devices. This is an Alexa smart kit. They can tell you what it can do. It does environmental controls. These are your speech communication devices. Let's see, let's look at the 4-in-1 joystick. Oftentimes I'll have pictures. The Texas Technology Access Program is in Austin. It's part of University of Texas, and but they serve all of Texas, not just Austin.
That's really great information. So another question here is, what is the single biggest challenge facing employers in your mind when looking for an accommodation for an employee with disabilities?
So what is the biggest challenge?
What is the biggest challenge for them? Is the challenge usually money? Is the challenge not understanding what's available or not having guidance?
That's the biggest challenge. I think, if you don't need it, you don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a list of companies and they travel all over the state. So it's having someone come in, see what the job is, talk to the employee and figure out what they need. So they're going to be, it's funny because technology has a shelf life that's much shorter than most cereal boxes. There's all new things coming out every month. What you saw 6 months ago probably isn't even available now. The other side of it is if someone finds a solution that works, they're going to want to have that solution just because then there's no learning curve. So I think that's the biggest challenge. It's not cost. I think the fear of cost is there,
Right.
but they just don't know. When you're one of these companies, they not only tell you what's available, but they tell you how much it's going to cost. And they can do the whole implementation also. So let's say a door opener. I was very surprised when I went and I was interviewing for jobs that I couldn't open the door. An ADA door is supposed to be 5 pounds or less. And many of these doors, depending on, the suction of internal pressure versus the outside, you couldn't get the door open. It was definitely more than 5 pounds. So there's a device called Open Sesame, and that's just to name one. There's several of them. And you hit a key fob and the door opens. So the companies that tell you what you may need can also come and install it. So it's kind of a one-stop shop.
Okay, good.
And this is companies that we use in VR, but companies that aren't going to VR can hire them. It's definitely not just VR specific.
Okay. Another question for you here is, Good morning. Recently, I have had a lot of eye issues for 3 months. I should use one drop, and after that, I'm not sure if I can work or no longer, or no, but I'm still not considered a handicap with
Mhm.
this. Can you please guide me on how I can get a handicap certificate? Is there such a thing, and what is the process for that?
So an employer, this is kind of tricky. An employer with over 25 employees is actually tasked with making sure that they are equal opportunity, right? And but a lot of times people don't want to claim I have a disability because they're fearful of discrimination. Well, it's really the opposite, because it's nice for an employer to actually say, we have a diverse group, see, we have equal opportunity. Now, as far as a certified disability, the Social Security Disability Administration is the only one that actually, you know, reviews your medical history and says you have a disability. But that doesn't mean, even if you're determined not disabled, that doesn't mean you don't need accommodations, right?
Sure. Right.
It could be a job share. It could be, at 10 o'clock, I take this medicine and I really can't function for about 20 minutes. So they work with the employer to take their break or maybe take an earlier lunch. They're able to take that medicine. Once again, they're not really disabled. They can do the work. They just have to have an accommodation. And that's kind of something that you work out with the employer. Your employer may request medical necessity and you get that from your doctor. In other words, let's say a company's like, that's great. Bring me something from your doctor that tells me what your needs are, and then we'll make sure, that we can accommodate. That usually is very, very common. Did that
Yeah,
answer?
that's good information. Now, there's another question here. You had alluded to this a little bit at the beginning when you first started and you were talking about yourself. What do you think of people first language, and how important is it to you that people use people first language?
It is crucial, right? No one wants to be considered other or different. I have a disability, but I am not my disability.
Right.
I have different needs. And I think it's very important not to say, personally, a wheelchair user versus I'm a person who uses a wheelchair. I'm not defined by this chair.
Right.
I happen to use a chair. And I think, when you're in this position, it becomes really important to not devalue the person and reduce them down to, oh yeah, the lady in the wheelchair. You have to think about, what does that say? What is that saying about their abilities? I promise I can outwork anybody. And this chair has nothing to do with it.
Right.
I think that's people first language is about respecting and honoring the person.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there's and for our audience here today, people first language is basically just using the person, like an employee with disabilities, as other than disabled employee. And it may not sound like it's important, but it is, because as you said, you're not defined by the chair, right? You're an employee, or you're a customer, or you're who you are, and that's just something you use to assist you to get through your day, right?
Absolutely. And, if we're lucky enough, we're all going to end up with some sort of disability, whether it's now we need glasses, where we develop arthritis, whether, I mean, life is long, we hope. So hopefully we all age to a point that we will have different needs than we had when we were 20. Right?
Right. Yeah.
That's important to remember.
Yeah, I think the statistics are nearly everyone will experience a temporary disability at some point in their lives, and 1 in 4 are going to have a permanent disability. And so that means that in your workplace, there are very likely, if you've got 50 employees or 100 employees or 5, there's very likely someone or other people that are working for you that have a disability you just don't even know about.
Right.
Right?
And there's a lot of shame that goes with a disability.
Exactly. Yeah.
The people don't like to share, just because they fear discrimination.
Yeah,
The
exactly. So one more question for you here, and that is about the concept of ableism, that there exists the perfect person, right? What are your thoughts on that?
I want to meet them.
Yeah, exactly.
The
Yeah.
person that can do every job. I think we've come a long way from that, especially with the focus on teams, right?
Mhm.
Not everybody can be great at everything. I may be an excellent typist, but really be bad on the phone. A person may be great customer service verbally, but can't work a data sheet. We just all have different abilities, and that's no different when we look at disabilities. We all are differently abled. What I need is what you need. Perhaps harsh lighting gives me a headache during the day. That's an easy fix. You get indirect lighting, get a lamp.
Right. Yeah.
So these are definitely easy fixes. Let's see if I could pull up the JM network right quick, because they've really done some work on that website. You can search by disability. You can search by job task. Say a person looking for a job and they're interested in, say, becoming a job. Maybe I want to be a hairdresser. Well, it would tell me what I need to be able to do to become a hairdresser. Let's say I have to be able to lift my arms up, maybe at least shoulder height. And I have to think, well, I can't do that. So maybe that wouldn't be for me, right? So there are different ways, and employers can use it, and they can scroll down to, and I'm not gonna be able to pull it up. Our systems are locked down.
Yeah, it looks like you're having trouble with that. Well, we're right at our 45-minute mark. And I want to thank you so much for coming out here today and visiting with us. I learned an awful lot. There's the JAN site, yeah, Job Accommodation Network. So
A to Z, this goes off with disability and the accommodations. So this is another resource
yeah,
that you can look.
another great website. Well, thank you again. Really enjoyed it, and it was very insightful and very informative.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. And if you come up with more questions or employers just want to chat about assistive technology, I'd love to meet with one-on-one and discuss it. I am
Excellent.
available any way you can use me.
Very good. And so this is week number 2 for National Disability Employment Awareness Month. As I mentioned earlier, we have been doing this for 4 years. This is our 15th webinar. Next week, we have Dr. Teresa McNeil coming in from Baylor Scott and White. She's going to be talking about long COVID and its impact on the workplace. So that'll be a very interesting one. Then we're going to talk about entrepreneurship in week 4. And so the next one of our webinars is next Thursday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning. And you can sign up for it. Brian has put the link in chat to sign up for our webinars. And this was a very nice back and forth kind of discussion, Michelle, today. And thank you very much for doing it for us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, I'm Carl Braun. That's it for us. Thank you, Tracy, our ASL interpreter, once again. We always have ASL interpreters when we do these, in case you know of someone that would need that service. We have it here. And to, of course, Brian Hernandez, who is our chief storyteller and all-around great guy. I'm Carl Braun. Until next week, hope you all have a safe and wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you then. Bye-bye now.